Thank you very much for being here at this late hour. And I just wanted quickly to ask, who uses Git? Everyone. Good. Who uses it on the console? Also quite a people. And who had a problem with Git? One's in there. Right? Also quite a bit of people. OK. So as you already work all with Git, some things might be, so you might know some things, but there will be more exciting things coming along. And if you're a beginner, don't be afraid. It will be more complicated towards the end, but the slides are online and you can use them as cheat sheets. I also do. And this is all based on my personal life and experiences, so there's more than a way to do things. So yeah, we can debate afterwards. A little bit about me. I was a secretary at a big consulting company for 11 years. I speak 4 languages. I spent some time in New Zealand working there. And in the year 2011, I decided to switch careers, study web design and development, and now I'm a PHP developer at Trivago, where I do central systems like A/B testing, translations and internationalization management, and also rights management and the administration tool to manage all of that. So when I started my first developing job, that was a front-end developer job at a little company, my colleague said, the command line is the only place you can run all the Git commands. Of course, there's GUIs, but they're just a matter of taste. Everyone has a different one. And they also only have a subset of all the functionalities. And yeah. So my colleague sat next to me and told me, yeah, git pull, and then you need to type git add dot, git commit, and git push. Push to where? Add to what? I was completely lost. I didn't know what was happening here. So I continued to work like this, and I just didn't know what I was really doing. So of course, I screwed things up until I decided to read the Git documentation, and that put everything into perspective. So when you actually have a context, that actually makes way more sense. So the way Git is structured is you have a workspace, a stage environment, the local repository, and the remote repository. That also still is kind of abstract, right? I have pictures. So your workspace is basically like the desk you're working on. The stage environment you can think of, yeah, like a packaging area where you wrap up the code to send it away. The local repository you can imagine as the shelf behind you where you exhibit all your wonderful work. And the remote repository is, of course, where all your things kept are really safe and forever, hopefully. So if you just want to have a look around, you use git diff. By the way, whenever you see a flag, that's a command line flag. Excuse the pun. The -W is very handy if you have those wars between your colleagues, use tabs versus spaces and stuff like that. You don't see all that. You only see the actual changes. Very, very handy. So yeah, you use git diff, obviously, to see the difference between the stage and the workspace. I always use git diff -- stage to see what I'm actually about to commit. And then there's the git diff head, and we will talk about this head notation later on, a bit more in detail. So what often happens is you just finished working, you're about to go home, you want to push your code, and bam, that doesn't work. And then you want to pull, and there's a merge conflict, and then you need a merge tool, and all of this is very stressy. So basically, Git, so also the documentation recommends to use a graphical merge tool, not the command line tool. I personally just use PHP Storm because I'm used to it. I already have it open, and I have my code highlighting, so I have all I do want. But this is all, everybody hates merge conflicts because you just actually wanted to go home and do something else and not deal with other people's code. And you need the willpower of a superhero to go through all of that. So what I actually recommend to do is stash your code whenever your git pull does not work, and do git pull whenever you just think of it, whenever you're working. And the stash, you can imagine, is a bit like the drawer in your desk where you just put things away for a while and then you retrieve them whenever you need them again. So basically, I like this approach more because when I'm at work, my brain is in problem-solving mode and not in I want to go home and have a drink mode. Good. Let's go over to branches. So I guess you will all know that Git is based like a tree, and the bubble in this chart is a commit. And whenever you have a branch checked out, Git will tell you that by an asterisk at the beginning. So if you type git branch, you get a list of branches, and if you type git -a, you get all the branches. So if you want to switch between branches, you obviously type git checkout the branch name, and if you want to switch between two branches very often, you type git checkout minus, which is very handy and just works like git like cd minus on the command line. Yeah, check out a new branch is with -b, and I also suggest to merge the master very often if you're working on a long-running branch. So in my project, I often merge 3 times a day because we have 40 developers working on the same project. If you want to go back in time, you use git checkout and a hash, or the head notation. Let's talk about, but when you do that, you're in a detached head state, so you can look around and make changes, and also can commit them. How do you get to the hash? That is with git log, and if you type git log graph one line, you get the exact same representation as the most graphical tools give you. Just a little bit more simple, but I find it's very great to have this overview. Okay, this head notation. So normally all you do is go to Stack Overflow, Google what your problem is, and trust that this notation somehow works, although you don't understand this. I very often see this head tilde one notation. That means they commit one before head. So if you take the top green commit and you go to the one down, so that is head tilde one. The circumflex notation means the first parent of this commit. So if you take the top gray, does this work? This one. If you take the top gray commit, it has one parent, but it also has a second parent. What I actually like to do the most is type git reflog, and that gives you a list of everything, and it looks a bit like this. So you have a very, very detailed list of the commit hashes, the head notations where your head went through, and also more things than your actual commits. So you see a pull and a merge and something like that in there. So I like this one very much because it's very, very detailed. If you actually want to move the head around, you can use git reset. If you use the hard option, all your uncommitted changes are lost forever. Be careful with that. And it will remove all the the previous commit. If you use git reset soft, all the commit changes will be pushed to your workspace like you never committed them. Imagine you really, really had a bad day. You have a bad day. You had a rough night, maybe a little bit too much alcohol, not enough sleep, just half a coffee, rush to the office, and you're greeted, you need to work ASAP because we have an urgent bug. And of course, you start working master because that's the first thing you do. So what you do is you stash everything away, check out a new branch, pop the stash out, and then you can go on working. Sometimes it happens that you have a conflict with the stash. And normally when you pop a stash, it deletes it. But thankfully, Git is that clever that it does not delete the popped stash if you have a conflict. That is very, very cool. So if you don't want that, you can reset soft and then go back to where you were before. Also, sometimes you have a stash that is super old and you don't know what will happen if you retrieve that stash. The cool thing is you can create a new branch from the stash at the stage that the stash was created. So you will have a new branch, and then of course you will merge the actual status into this branch, so you will have the latest changes. But I think this is a very, very cool thing when you stashed away something that you really wanted to keep, but is quite a long ago. So you go on working, and you created this new branch, and you were a little bit in a hurry, and you switched up your ticket number, and you need to change your branch name. And you can do that with the -m, so move option, and that way rename the branch. Please do not do this if you already pushed the branch, or even a pull request exists that will just create chaos. So imagine you have a config.local file with your database password, and you accidentally added it to the stage, and you removed it from the stage, but Git still lists it. So you add it to the git ignore, but Git still doesn't really recognize this. So you remove it with the flag ---- staged, so it will remove it from Git, but will leave it untouched on the disk. Do not forget the ---- stage, or it will really be deleted. Also happened to me once. Also, very often a typo in a commit message. That was the first draft of my talk. And then I thought about it, and actually most times we don't have typos in our commit message. We have more commit messages like this. So if you want to change that afterwards because you had a bit of a fight with Git, you can amend your commit message and change that to a real proper describing message about what you did and why you did it. Same for forgetting to commit a file. You can add it and amend the last commit. So actually, you did all that, and you thought about it, and you had the last half of your coffee, and you decide you actually want to undo all this amending, because this was not really what you wanted to do. You can do a soft reset and then a git commit minus capital C, and that will mean that you can reuse the log message and the author and the timestamp. This flag only works in combination with this reset. Otherwise, I tried it out, does not work with a normal commit. No fraud there. Actually, all that you did this morning was really, really not worth it. You want to delete the branch. So git branch minus D removes the branch, and sometimes Git will tell you, no, this is not enough. You will need a capital D, and then you type git branch minus capital D, and then you also push it to the origin, so also the remote knows that the branch is gone. I know, this is all very, very technical, and now I want you to take a little break and cross your arms and massage your ears until they get red. I know this sounds very, very strange, but because you're crossing your arms, you're activating your both brain hemispheres and the corpus callosum between them. And of course, massaging the ears till they get red makes the blood flow. And for me, this really helps to get more concentration and not have the 5th cup of coffee. Cool, because everyone fit now? We are now going to the more complicated stuff. Obviously, sometimes that happens. You committed a var dump die or something like that, or even worse things. And the safest and most basic undo scenario Git offers you is the Git Revert, where you basically create a commit that is the inverse of the one you had before. I see, crossing the arms again. So everything that was in the old commit will be removed and replaced by anything that is new in the latest commit. This sounds really, really complicated, but once you've done it yourself, you will see that it's not complicated at all. It just sounds. That also kind of happens quite often, that you realize that you were working in the wrong branch and also push that. What I'm about to tell you, do not use this in master, please. So you make sure that you're in the wrong branch, then you do a soft reset, stash everything away, go to the actual branch you want to have, retrieve your stash, commit everything, and push it, and then you go back again to the wrong branch and push forward. This is why I told you do not use this in master. Make sure that no one has committed in the meantime, and because your changes might be lost. And there's also another possibility to do this with cherry pick, but we'll go to that later. Remember when we said that in detached head state you can look around and do things and commit, but you cannot push. Git will tell you, yeah, can do everything, but you cannot push. But actually, you can create a new branch out of the detached head state with your commits, have a new branch, and then, of course, merge the actual change, the actual status of origin to your branch, so you have everything up to date. This happened to my colleague Janine exactly last week. So she took over a branch from a colleague, just wanted to do a couple of things, and just to be nice, She wanted to merge master into it, and there was a huge stack of changes, and we tried to solve this conflict, but there were a whole lot of moved and deleted files, and we decided now she doesn't want to deal with that. Now she wants to just add her little feature and leave that to her colleague Malte. So easy as that, just git merge minus minus import, and you're back to the stage before, so you're back to your last commit. So this happened to me while we were trying to move from Symfony to 8 to 3, version 3. So I needed some special files from the branch my colleague already had for the Symfony upgrade, but I did not want to branch my branch of his, because this makes things weird and complicated, and then only his branch has to be merged first before I can merge mine. So I did not want that. I just wanted a couple of config files. And I just checked out the files as they were into my branch. Word of caution, your local changes will be overwritten, so that only makes sense at the beginning of a project. If you're in the middle of the project, then maybe you would like to use a cherry pick and have a single commit from the other branch. So you can use gitlog or gitlog to see the list of commits and then apply the cherry pick to your branch. This happened when we were changing from Vagrant to Docker, so I needed stuff from another branch, but I was not allowed to commit it because I was the only one with another colleague who were already working on Docker, and if we had committed our files, everyone else's code would be environment would be broken. So I merged this other branch into my branch, typed git reflog to see what happened there, did a soft reset to the commit before the merge, and then I used the patch mode, so git add -p, to just add my personal changes that I wanted in there. The patch mode is really, really cool because you don't add whole files, but you can add single lines of code that you changed. I basically only use the yes and no actions because that's what I mostly use, and everything else I look up with the question mark. I think there's split and add all and stuff like that, but basically I just flip through them and say yes and no to whatever I need. So patch mode is really, really helpful. So accidentally using a hard reset and your last commit is gone. That only works if you already committed. Your uncommitted changes and a hard commit, they're gone. They're lost forever in nirvana, I don't know, wherever. But if you have a commit, you can actually do that. So you go to the reflog and see a very detailed, and so you can do a hard reset on the reset thing. Yeah, so it makes more sense if you read through this little history there. So you did a hard reset. You don't see that in the git log, but you see the changes in the reflog. And if you do a hard reset on this thingy, then it's back again, the super important commit. Does that make any sense? Yeah, cool. One day my colleague Jakob came to me and told me, yeah, I have this branch and I'm trying to check it out, but I can't because it's called composer.json. It's no joke. It actually happened. So he was trying to check out this branch, composer.json, and obviously that doesn't work because if you type git checkout composer.json, it will check out the file. But when you append a minus minus, you trick Git into thinking there's a file coming afterwards, so it will think that composer.json is the branch. So that way it worked. Actually, technically, you can name a branch head in capital letters. Don't, because hell will break loose. No. But technically it's possible. We are now moving into the danger zone, and we are changing the history. So this is a little bit la pièce de résistance. This happened to one of our administrators. He committed and pushed his password. Obviously, what I'm going to explain next, obviously you change your password, you make sure it's different and whatnot, and do all the safety measures you need to do. Additionally, you can do all of this. I will go through this, those colored, highlighted things because it's a really, really complicated thingy here. So filter branch obviously means we will filter through all the branches. Index filter, that's the light blue one, means we will rewrite the filter. The whole green thingy, git remove stage, we actually want to remove this file. We saw this git rm minus stage before. Prune empty means we will remove any commits that now will be empty. Imagine you had a commit that only contained this config local file, and so now if you remove it, this commit would be empty. So it will also remove those commits. Tag name refile cat means that we will also rewrite the tags, not only the commits. And minus minus all is to make sure that we are really going through all the things. Then you add your file to the git ignore, you commit it, and then you do a dry run before you do a git push force. Because you changed a whole lot of things and you want to try it out before you do any actual changes. So if you do a dry run, Git will tell you, nah, maybe you should, there's a problem here. So, but if that all works out, you push force it all, and you also push force all the tags. And then you need to talk to all your colleagues and tell them to check out anew. And if that all worked out, and if you talked all to your colleagues and everyone is back from vacation, and everybody's code works now on their machines, then you will have to remove the dangling commits. So dangling commits are, remember the graphic I had with the tree thingy where the commits were all like on this line? So dangling commit is not anymore on this line. It's somewhere lost. You don't normally see it, but someone who really knows Git can see those dangling commits and look into it and still see your password. So you also want to remove those, and you can do it with all of that. That is really, really complicated process. There's another option, like this one. It's a nuclear option. The nuclear option simply means you will delete your Git repository and create a new one that is named exactly the same and put everything to your new repository. Pro tip, if it's a GitHub repository and you have stars, you will keep the stars although you deleted the repository. Actually true. And so yeah, with this option, you can really, really be sure that your password is gone because all of your history is gone. Problem is, all your history is gone. So you really have to decide between those two options which one really applies to you if you really, really accidentally committed your password. What do you do when someone else changed the history? So in the normal case, you would rebase the master, not merge it. Otherwise, some things would be back. If you still have stuff that you want to keep, you can stash everything. And my personal, I like the clean slate, so I would rather delete everything and check out anew. Of course, all of that needs a lot of communication, otherwise you will have conflicts, and not only merge conflicts, but also interpersonal conflicts. There's some things you could do to prevent some of the problems we just discussed. So I configured my bash prompt just like this, so I can see the directory I'm in, and in blue I can see the branch I'm in, and also the little asterisk tells me if the branch is dirty or not, so if I have uncommitted changes in there. This whole code thing, by the way, is a GitHub gist, so you can look it up and just copy it into your bash profile or bash RC, depending on your system. Also in our company, we have really, really long branch names because we always have the ticket number, a feature or bug fix, the whole ticket number, and then the whole description, what it really does, and I don't want to type all that all the time. So with this cool little thing here that will add code to your bash profile, I can have autocomplete for the branch names and other stuff in Git. And normally I just type web minus and the first 1 or 2 numbers, and then I get all the rest. If you find that all too tedious to actually make changes in your bash profile, you can just switch to the ZSH prompt, and then you will have many, many of those things already built in. Like the branch name and if it's dirty or not. Then you always want to configure your Git before you actually work. So obviously you want to set your name and your email. I work on a Mac, so I never ever want to commit any .dstore files, and I also never ever want to commit any .idea files, so my PHP storm configuration for this project. So I added those to the global git ignore, so I never ever will accidentally commit them. Apparently there's people who can't close Vim. So that is the regular editor that opens when you type git commit. So for those people, and if they can configure a different editor, for example, Atom, so whenever you type git commit, Atom will open, you type your commit message, save and close, and then you have a commit that is also an option. Some people like that. You can configure your own merge tool. As said, I don't have that because most of the time I will just use PHP Storm because of the code highlighting. But sometimes I use a different merge tool. I find that helpful. Yeah, as said, all our commit messages start with a ticket number, and all my ticket numbers start with web minus, so I have a global commit message that has web minus, so I don't have to type these 4 letters. It's not much, but it's a style. And my personal favorite feature is the autocorrect. So you can get away with typing git push or git pull with 3L, or if you accidentally Always hit the hash when you're trying to hit return. Also, always happens to me. So Git will then tell you, I think you maybe meant this. Do you want me to execute it? And it will execute it. And in this case, wait for 3 seconds, which for me is enough to read through it. And if I don't want it, hit Control C. So I recommend you to use the command line, but you obviously already do that. Commit early, commit often. Pull and merge master more often. Try not to push when you notice your error, because undoing your things when you already pushed is way more complicated. And keep calm, because almost everything can be undone. I hope you're happy. Thank you.